Welcome back to a brand new episode of Spill the Alpha. You're listening to episode number 32, and this week I'm interviewing Salsa Tequila. Salsa is a crypto derivatives trader who got well known for taking second place in a trading competition with over 4,000% in P&L in 3 weeks, turning zero point 0.1 BTC to over 8 BTC. Join our conversation as we discuss plus EV gambling, his journey to profitability, the value of daily journaling, high-stakes trades, and the process of developing an edge, and much, much more. So let's jump right into it. I'm your host, Delta. You're listening to Spill the Alpha number 32, and please welcome my guest, Salsa Tequila.
So to all our listeners, welcome to another episode of Spill the Alpha. Thank you so much for coming. Really do appreciate it, and we hope that you will enjoy this episode. Today we have Salsa Tequila. I'm sure that almost everyone knows who Salsa is. I've been following him actually, Salsa, you were one of the first people that I followed. You, Cred, and Don were the first 3 people that I discovered from CT. Thank God that I didn't discover some of the fillers and stuff. Salsa, I think, is one of the best scalpers on CT. I think it's one of the accounts that really posts some of the best knowledge about just scalping and very clear things, not hiding anything. I think it's going to be a really good one. So yeah, Salsa, thanks for coming, mate.
Bro, you're saying this as I'm underwater for a lot of money.
Dude, I really don't want to look at prices right now. I'm also underwater. Fuck. But
yeah, thanks to be here. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. I want to remind to all of our listeners that on the bottom right corner, you're going to have a chat icon, and you can just click on that. And if you have any questions to Salsa, you can just click on that, leave them there, and towards the end of the episode, we're going to go back to them and go over them. And if anyone wants to jump on the stage towards the end of the spaces and ask Salsa anything on his own, so just request to speak towards the end of the episode, and we're going to let you guys come on the stage. That's pretty much it. I think we can just jump right into the questions. So Salsa, I heard you in other podcasts and stuff like that talking a bit about your beginning, but maybe there's some people who don't know that. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get into crypto?
Sure. I said many times, so I'll try and keep it brief. I was gambling on certain video games. There was some money to be made in the game, and you would sell it for dollars, and for that I needed crypto. So that's how I found Bitcoin. And the good thing about this kind of ventures was the fact that you needed to think in terms of probabilities, which is something that most everybody who never got used to that are really not capable of doing on a day-to-day basis. So that means thinking in terms of expected values. And that's why you see a lot of good traders that come from a poker background, I believe. It's similar kind of thinking where you got to take the bet that provides the positive expected value, and you know how to do that. So that taught me this. And then I figured out I should try trading in 2017 when price went up. It was really just pure luck. I had no vision. I didn't hold any crypto as investment back then. It's just I got caught up in the uptrend and I got excited. So yeah, made a bunch 2017. Then I lost it all in 2018, like many, and that was my first rodeo.
All right, nice. And you just started trading in 2017, and you just stuck up with it, like you fully moved to that instead of like continuing with a video game.
Yeah. Right away, I knew there's big potential for it. Although I even when I basically got washed, like the meme getting washed, that was most of us at the bottom in 2018, like. Yeah. Flipping from crypto to forex and things like that. So many people got washed, me included. But even then, there was no doubt that this was for me, and I wanted to keep trying until I either make something out of it or waste a few years and go back to studying.
That's awesome. So as you started trading in 2017, how long did it take you to feel like you're starting to get the hang of things and starting to turn a profit? Was there like a pivotal moment that made you realize you could do this for a living?
Yeah, that was 2017. Even though I was shit and I like margin trading was really not for me. I should have never touched it. I lost probably a lot of my profit in 2017, but it's just every single coin went 100 to 200x back then. It was way crazier than anything we've seen this year. So that's why I made money. But that was the moment, 2017 bubble. I figured financial markets are awesome and I want to do that. And then in terms of margin trading, that took a while longer. I realized 2018 I was still losing money, so all the way through 2017 to middle of 2018 I lost money trading on margin consistently, like just dwindling down my crypto coin balances.
So you're losing a
and
margin, but your spot holdings were covering everything up, basically.
yeah, exactly. No, it's more like you make a lot of money in spot holdings, and then you lose it on you lose some of it on
Okay.
margin, which is possibly one of the reason, by the way, that when the market goes up a lot, the trading becomes a lot easier because your counterpart is a bit more stupid, like I was in 2017. You basically just made a bunch of money, like 10x, and you're giving away 10% of that to the lords of margin. So that was kind of my story with margin. I lost for maybe 18 months. And after 18 months, I kind of stopped losing money. Maybe it took 2 years for me to really be profitable.
So when you were going through that process of like that 1.5, 2 years of becoming profitable, how did you maintain your psychological side of things? Like, how did you still have the motivation? Because a lot of people, I feel like, give up very quickly and feel like there is no way out for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality for many people, in the sense that they don't have the luxury I had. I was very privileged to be young and to be having my parents' basement as a last resort, right? So there was no stress. It's not like life or death. It's just I'm risking like 2 years, and that would put me a bit behind on career path. But like I could always just go back to university. I was like 20-year-old. But if you're a family person, you have dependents, then you don't have that luxury to lose money for 2 years. So it's very, very difficult, and you have to quit at some point. I believe that's what happens to a lot of traders. They never go through that period of grinding your teeth because they don't have the ability to afford it, which is unfortunate. So for most people, you should not even try if you can't afford to lose 2 years and have a backup plan. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. That's why most people recommend something like 1 or 2 years of savings of the expenses you expect, and like
yeah, I would be way more conservative than that, but I'll get to that later if I think you have more questions.
Yeah. Well, when you were going through that beginning process of you becoming profitable and like working on becoming profitable, can you share any significant mistakes or any general challenges that you went through in the early days of trading, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, the biggest by far has always been oversizing. I like to go all in on a single trade. and like I know if I have, let's say, a certain amount on my margin exchange, eventually I'll see a bet that I really want to take, and I'll try to maximize my size on it, and sometimes it's really a bad decision. So how to tame it? First of all, I found a way to manage my risk where I only, let's say, deposit 2% of my crypto portfolio on margin platform, and I trade with that on high leverage, and that keeps me from overbetting. And if I really want bigger size, I need a win streak first to build into that size. So that's a way that I found for myself works. It protects me against myself, and if I lose the 2% deposit, I will at least have a night's sleep before considering a deposit again, because after a night's sleep, you're a bit of a different person.
Yeah.
So that's a way I found, and I think it works extremely well. And anybody who's struggling with risk management, if you just incorporate that, you basically fix it, and it forces you to be picky because of the high leverage as well on your entries. Also the bigger the size you trade, the lesser your edge in general, I would say, because it's harder to flip around, and I do a lot of flipping. So let's say I open a trade and I have a monster size, and then I have to close it. There's a decent chance that I hesitate to close it where I should really not hesitate, because I know that I'm going to lose money from executing that close order. And sometimes the market risks to run away from me. Whereas if my size is tiny, the market doesn't care. It's just gonna close it very quickly, and I don't really lose on the hesitation.
Yeah, and it's a really good point, especially the part with depositing only a portion of your money to margin exchanges. I feel like the main issue most people have is that most people actually trade with their full balance. Like they have their full portfolio on the exchange and they just work with all of it. And I feel like that's where things can get very slippery and go bad very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so your challenges aside, from your experience with interacting with people on Twitter and just talking to friends and other traders and things like that, what do you feel like are the most common or reoccurring issues that other people have other than yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. This would 100% be a lack of edge. I seen this when I arrived in the prop shop, and I started working with prop shop in 2018, late 2018, and they make us a speech from the start that edge is basically the only thing that makes money, and it's absolutely true. Um, so an issue that I encountered speaking with many traders who joined the firm was confusing different things, and I'm guilty of it as well. So they would have a bunch of different indicators, a bunch of different signals, AGGR on the side mixed with some RSI and some other indicators, and they keep it very noisy instead of focusing on one thing that they believe have edge and try to really find edge in that. And you can't find edge if you mix a bunch of different signals and you don't really have expertise in any of them. You're basically just trading noise. So I would say, as a general rule of thumb, if you cannot define clearly what your edge is, you don't have one and you should not put on a trade.
How long did it take you to develop an edge?
That took at least 2 years from the moment. I mean, as I mentioned, I lost for about 18 months. I didn't really have any edge. I didn't really know what I'm doing. I just kind of stared at the charts and tried to make sense of order flow and those kind of things. I'd say after 2 years, I started developing an edge from different patterns at first. So maybe I remember I was using a lot of swing failure patterns at the time, which was a popular pattern on crypto Twitter. I think I helped popularize that. So it's basically like a stop hunt pattern, and I would mix that pattern with some order flow. So that was one of my first edge. I made a bit of money on that, although it was not big edge. It did provide some value. So it's really about finding specific things that provide you value in your trading that you can put a trade on, and you have the upper hand somewhere. And that took me about 2 years from the moment I started trading in 2017. I think I really started having an edge in 2019.
So do you feel like if someone is trading right now, one of our listeners, me maybe, and he doesn't have an edge, he doesn't feel like he has the ability to constantly make money with a certain edge, how would you suggest someone starts developing an edge? Just putting in the time, or is there something extra?
Sure. So the first step is not lose a lot of money. So obviously you would only trade a small account, something that you can afford to lose, although you're not there to lose it. So treat that as your tuition fee, because demo trading is not the same feel. In my opinion, demo trading is very, very different from real trading. You need to get a feel for the order book and the way that people can front run and all those beautiful things. So you trade a small account, and then you would try to look outside of the box. So the first thing that you see when you search how to learn trading is often a bunch of gurus who show you technical analysis, lines on the chart, and that's the very common misconception that it's the only way to trade. There's a billion ways to trade that doesn't use technical analysis at all. You can watch order books, you can watch the news feeds, you can watch order flow. So I think you have to think outside of what everybody else does. Everybody looks at the same chart, so why would you outperform other people looking at it? What lenses are you looking at the market from?
Yeah. I mean, trading with the demo, I agree. I feel like it's one of the worst things someone can do, just because I feel like trading with money that doesn't make you feel anything is such a huge part, because like the
Yeah, and
emotional
also
part
you,
of
you need
trading
to
is
get filled,
massive.
right? Let's say you put
Yeah.
an order at 56,750 and the market taps 56,749. Then maybe you got filled on demo, but you wouldn't in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's definitely something good. I don't know who popularized the whole demo trading thing. I know that now even Binance and Bybit have like demo platforms and stuff like that. It's yeah, it's not a good thing to do. Well, I want to talk more about your strategies or edge even kind of thing. We won't get too deep into the detail, obviously, but have your trading strategies evolved a lot over time, or are there any new methodologies and stuff and tools that you use now that you didn't in the past, or did everything stay pretty similar, pretty same thing?
It changed a lot. Yeah, as I said, I liked swing failure patterns back in the days. Now I use a lot of order books, a lot of newsfeed. I like to watch how the market reacts to specific news. So you see me post on Twitter stuff like we need FUD to go higher. That's because the best long setups I've seen is often when there's a lot of FUD and the market doesn't go down on it. So that's a signal that it's probably going up. It doesn't necessarily work the same way on the other side. So you learn some nuances from entertaining those ideas. For example, if there's good news and the market doesn't go up, in my experience, it doesn't work as well as to take the short side than to take the long side on the opposite. In order books, you watch, let's say, Binance futures order books, there's going to be a lot of spoofing and it can be a lot of noise and make you take bad decisions if you're not familiar with this kind of activity. So you need to put the time to develop an edge from whatever you choose to entertain as your path towards finding edge. And whatever you choose to use, you must really dedicate yourself to be a master at it. You should not mix different signals. You should focus on one thing that you think provides edge and try to be good at it. That would be my advice.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you also journaled quite a lot, right? You were like probably documenting everything you do and stuff like that, or did you not really journal? So much?
Absolutely. I try to write a lot because when I think with words, I'm not as conclusive as when I write. So let's say you're trying to write about your trading, right? You will be able to come back, reread what you wrote, and maybe that will derive another idea that you hadn't thought of. So basically, your ability to find problems and solutions is better when you're writing. That's at least my personal experience. So journaling is very powerful, and it's not necessarily just about every specific trade. It can be about your trading broadly, just at the end of every week, once a week. That would be a good habit. You take 30 minutes, you just write about it. How did it go? What do you think you did right? What do you think you did wrong? Did you get stuck? How did you feel? Those kind of things, you may find things that you didn't know about yourself and your own trading from
Yeah.
doing that. And that works outside of trading too. I found things about different things that I didn't think of from just thinking.
Yeah, like an emotional kind of journal, not only technical in the
Yeah,
trading
I
aspect.
think
Yeah.
it's about, you know, I finding ideas is, it always starts from the mind, but it's easier when you put some kind of frame on paper to develop those ideas.
Yeah, 100%. I want to talk about the psychological side as well. How do you manage the psychological aspect of trading? Like if you have a lot of stress or just maintaining the discipline during very volatile periods
Mhm.
or just very bad periods overall. I know you love biking and every time you're
Yeah,
stressed, you go for a bike ride. Um, but is
absolutely.
there
So
anything extra to it?
so I'd like to. I'll talk first about, let's say, 2019, when I was a bit broke. Uh, so I would over risk. That was one of my. Do you still hear me? By the way, I don't see
Yeah, I
my.
can hear. Yeah, I can
Okay,
hear.
okay. Yeah. So back in 2019, I was a bit more like I had a lot less money than now, and I risk a lot. I would sometimes risk like 10% of my net worth in the trade, which is way too much. But
Yeah, that's
I, I
insane.
would I would oversize and I would be on high leverage while doing it. And something I did very often to cope with it was, let's say I have a high conviction trade and I take huge size. I would open the trade, set my parameters, and go for a bike ride to let it develop a bit. Because I know if I stare at the chart and I
Mhm.
and I start second guessing myself, I'm gonna fuck it up somewhere. So
Yeah,
if I have
so you go for
conviction,
a bike ride, you leave like you don't watch the phone, you don't watch the charts,
I put
like
I put trading view alerts. So
mhm.
whichever price, let's say it moves $200 in my direction or against me, I want to pay attention again. I'll put the alerts and I'll go for the bike ride, and that kind of helped ease my mind away from thinking about the money.
Yeah,
That was back then. Now you mentioned stress. If you ask me now, there's zero stress because I'm pretty conservative. Earlier you asked, you talk about the 2-year rule. You shouldn't get into trading if you don't have 2 year of living expense. I take it a bit further. I believe you should not. You should have at least 5 to 10 years of living expenses outside of crypto. And the reason for that in my case is because I'm not qualified outside of crypto. If the market goes to zero, what am I doing? I might
Dude,
like I
we
might
are
need to go to college, you know. So
the average person's like CV after trading for a couple of years is so like useless. I'm the same thing, dude. Then a
yeah,
10 years gap in my CV.
yeah. So it's all about perspective. If you're, let's say, a doctor, then yeah, go ahead, try trading. If you don't, you go back to being a doctor and you make a lot of money. But if you're like me, you don't have the qualifications, then you must be a bit more realistic and keep more savings outside of crypto to back you up and your dependence. So I have zero stress right now, basically because I have that safety net outside of crypto. I know that if I work hard, I can redirect my life if anything happens to crypto.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to also ask you about, you said you were risking about 10% of your net worth pretty much for any good trade that you find back then. Do
Oh
you
yeah.
feel it's something that also helped you to become what you are today, or do you feel like it was more of a setback rather than giving you this, the big wins and anything like that?
The truth is, I don't know.
Mm,
I like to think that it was not. I believe that if I learned the lesson that I learned while doing that without doing it, I would be richer. But
yeah.
because I learned lessons from doing it and I managed to push the boundaries of my risk tolerance, I think it was not a bad thing. It's just there's a way to learn this without going through the losses and the setbacks that I put myself through. So I would say in my case it helped, but also it led to financial setbacks.
Yeah. Well, so going back to trading, one of the ways I got to know you, and I really started like looking at your feed and actually like trying to see how, pick into your brain type of thing, was after you got really famous and really got to the stage in 2020 when I think you took like second place in a very big trading competition with like 5,000 PNL in a week or something like that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That was
Yeah.
WSOT. I think it was 2020 or 2019. I forgot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
I turned uh, zero point 0.1 BTC into 8 at the time. I think it was 10K per BTC. So it's like 1K into 80K or something like that.
Yeah, and then you also got like 5 BTC or something of the prize, which is awesome.
Yeah, I shared it with
Um,
my team though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember the Pepper team or something like that. But yeah, that's how I got to know you. And actually, this is also something you mentioned quite a lot, talking about trading competitions with low balances, talking about, trading small accounts, talking about how you're good at taking small accounts to really big numbers. So you're known for that ability. And what tips would you give someone struggling with trading small accounts and, taking them higher?
Well, as mentioned earlier, if you can't trade a small account up, you absolutely should not size up. Your issue is 100% edge because with a small account you don't have a market impact. It's very easy to execute, so it takes a lot of those kind of stress out of the way. And if you're not able to make money, it comes back to that question of edge.
Mhm. So
So
basically,
you would,
just stick to a
yeah,
smaller account. It's easier, better, and if you can do it with that, you're
yeah,
probably
yeah.
not gonna make it.
If you're trying to size up, at first you need to develop an edge and you need to be able to trade your tiny account up. So you need to be able to generate profit on a small account. And yeah, if you're struggling with that, then your problem is definitely that you can't make money trading. You don't have an edge. That's what I would think.
Yeah. And it's funny because you mentioned actually that you very often take small accounts, make them really big, and then usually take a really big haircut after that. Why do you feel that happens?
Uh, oh yeah, that's definitely because in my case, yes, also the bigger size leads to more hesitation at times, and it can make you impatient. But I would say you make more mistakes as you grow the account. It becomes easier to be emotional, and if your size is noticeable by the market, you encounter new issues like slippage. So
Hmm.
that would be the case. I made a post, I think it's pinned to my tweet, about the plateau downfall. So
Yeah.
basically that kind of depicts. It was completely unrelated to trading, by the way. That story. It was a game that the bigger you bet, basically the harder it is to find edge because nobody with the kind of money to call your bets is going to be rich. They're not going to be stupid. They're going to be sharp. So in trading, I would say there's a little bit of that, in the sense that if you move size around, you're going to be noticeable by the market to a certain extent. So you need to find ways to mitigate that, and then your emotions are going to get in the way as well. It's harder to flip. Maybe the P&L flashing in front of you will distract you from taking the right decisions.
Yeah, 100%. It's something I actually still struggle with to this day. If I start growing my account, and there's certain threshold when I reach them, I can definitely feel how they're starting to affect my mental state. Like whether if it's getting super hyped about reaching, X and Y or Z and things like that. So I have a rule: when I reach a certain number, I just cash out and I go back to where I started. I feel like that's always helping me. Well, you're more of a scalper, right? So why do you feel like so many people fail when they're trying to scalp intraday? And what tips would you give to someone who wants to go into this intraday trading move and just focus on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you need to have the ability to go without profits for a while, sometimes even running at a loss for a while, because let's face it, you have months that are very, very choppy after trending months, where you might lose some money at the end of the trend, and then you don't really have an opportunity to make it back for many months. So you need to be able to sit on your hands to recognize the different market phases. And I would say the biggest money to be made in this market is in the uptrends. It goes very fast, and everybody kind of makes money around from holding a bunch of coins. Your counterpart is a bit more stupid, in the sense that everybody's printing on holding spot bags, and they don't mind sacrificing a little bit of it playing with margin. So the options are really easy to trade. And if you can just focus on one thing, I would suggest focus on having patience and trading the options, and sitting on your hands when it's not an option. I mentioned earlier that a way that I find useful to detect an option is when, let's say, for example, there's very bad news for the market that you would expect the market goes down on, and it doesn't. That could be a hint that it's time to buy and there's going to be an option. So try to focus on uptrends is my opinion. A market like now in September, there's really no reason you should trade that. You should not waste your energy and capital on that, unless you can afford to lose for a very, very long time and have a painful journey to learning your lessons.
Yeah, I mean, this year is a very good example, because since April we've been just pretty much standing still, and every time I made a poll about how are people doing since the beginning of the year with their portfolios, the number of people saying they're down keeps growing. So it just shows you how much people are getting chopped and giving gains back in these conditions. Yeah, it's really important to know the conditions you should be trading at. Well, I want to touch again back to the competitions. So you tweeted last week, I think, that you think you want to try to get into another competition, and try to run that. Is there a reason you really enjoy those public competitions, and do you think people should try to push themselves to trade those kind of competitions, like the Bybit competitions? And I know that Coinbase is launching the competition in their perps soon.
Yeah, the first edition of the Bybit competition was very fun, because the prize pool, it was the first time that the prize pool is quite big, and the entry barrier was extremely low. So like I deposited 1K, and the prize pool, I think if you're in top, I think our team finished second, and I got like 50K or something for it. And the team got more, and I forgot what it was net, but basically the payoff was accessible, in the sense that it was not heavily botted or whatever, and there was not so many people joining. I would say if you're looking to trade a small account up, and make it entertaining, it's a good option. Like those competitions, for example, WSOT, are often incentivized to trade from a small account, because let's say you want to stack a big ROI percent, it's much easier to do it if you start with the minimum allowed balance to participate than if you start with a big balance. So that can, let's say you're in a losing streak and you want to just try to get back on your feet with a very small account and try to be profitable and have fun, that could be an option. You deposit the minimum possible and you just play around and you try to make money. So I would say it become harder to win those through the year. There's like teams that can coordinate together to kind of win, and shenanigan games. People are more used to those kind of competition models, and it's harder to win basically now than it was before.
Yeah.
But I would say it's fun, and I do intend to participate again in those kind of competitions. I don't see a downside to it. It's just you should not treat this as a real trading account. Like if this was your whole account, you would not trade the same way. Oftentimes what I do is I deposit the minimum amount and I risk it all in one trade from the start.
I remember you spoke about how I think it was in that competition in 2019 or 2020, where on like a couple of hours before the competition ended, you almost someone passed you or something like that with a very big volatile move or something.
Yeah, it was Junkie, and I think it was Mike McDonald's. We were like top 3 competing against each other. I think there was some beef with Mike McDonald's team because
this was on the personal PNL, right? Or was it on the team?
Both actually. I think our team came just second, just before theirs at the very last minute. They kind of flipped some ROI and the timing. There was some kind of beef with the timing of when Bybit kind of settled the balances, and it could have made the difference.
Yeah,
shenanigans at the end.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I never actually participated in any competitions, but I do feel like it's probably a really good thing to do if you want to, just like you said, have some fun and have the incentive of actually getting extra prizes and stuff like that. I think in the last I've seen, I think it was Bybit making some competition, something a little bit smaller, not the World Trading Series, and they give prizes to like the top 50 or something like that. Like you really don't even need to be the top 3 or something like that.
Yeah, they give millions in prizes, and all you need to do is join the team and deposit the minimum and trade like 50K volume. So there's some incentive. Like it makes sense to join. I would say it's harder to win now than it was back then, but it's still worth it, in my opinion. If you just deposit the minimum and try to trade properly, there's a good chance that if you pick the team that wins, you get little crumbs from just joining.
Yeah, I mean, even those crumbs, you get some money, and also nowadays Bybit generally they give you some like coupons and stuff. At least you're gonna cover your trading fees, which is already great.
Yeah, they give you coupons because they want you to go and degen trade, lose your balances on their exchanges.
Yeah,
you lost 50K, but here's a
$20 coupon. Yeah, exactly. So should we expect the jalapeno troop 2024?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know when it's going to be, but I intend to participate. I don't see why not. Maybe I do some kind of Twitter alliance. Like, how now it's only big teams that win, and I just want to be in the winning team. So I would say a good strategy would be to just make a team as huge as possible. Like, don't try to strategize to win the prize. Just try to have as many people as possible so that your team wins.
Just for the clouds.
So we need some big accounts who just collaborate together to achieve that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun. You mentioned that trading competitions nowadays are much harder because there's a lot of different the participants are much different than what they were in 2019. Do you feel that's true about trading overall, like that it's much harder nowadays than it was back then? And do you feel like the environment changed quite a lot, or?
Yeah, it changed a lot, but it's still there's still money there. It's still very fraction and inefficient in some way. There's like a different exchange. There's like different exchanges for the same coin, which are effectively different markets, and there's market makers that kind of bridge them together. But it's a very unique environment that's not like you see outside of crypto, I would assume. And there's money to be made. I don't think it's harder. There's some edges that are gone that I really enjoyed milking before. For example, the discrepancies between mark price and last traded, it's been mostly patched on exchanges. So that was a feature of the different products, and I haven't seen it since 2020, 2021. So so I would say there's still money to be made.
Yeah, yeah. Losing edges suck. I
Yeah, I mean
remember.
it's the same as before, right? Every time the market is dry and difficult to trade, people think that the edge is gone and the institution milked it and all, but really it's just a shitty market phase, and you had those in 2018.
Yeah, 100%. And like every time we have a big run or something like that, like BTC going up 100% or whatever, so many new things pop up and so many new opportunities for it just come up that you just need to really be active and you'll find things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me see. So we're coming to the last question. So if anyone does have any questions overall that you want to ask us, also you can request to speak, and I'll let you come on the stage. Um, but by the way, before we move on to the last question, did you try to trade TradFi and futures and stuff like that also?
I tried to trade Forex and I lost $5,000 back in 2018.
That's
That's as
you
far
never
as I
touched it
went.
since.
Yeah, that's my whole TradFi experience in
Yeah.
one sentence.
I think in the last 2 weeks, I've seen a couple of crypto Twitter people talking about how they're going to try trading Forex and things like that. And I was like, oh my God, 2019 all over again. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for all the trading questions, the trading answers. That's really awesome to have. But now moving to the last question, Salsa. What do you think making it is, and do you feel like you've made it?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be so when I had no money and I was on Twitter a lot, everybody talk about making it and they show materialism, right? So making money when you have none can easily be your definition of making it, and that's definitely what I worked towards. So I had the impression that making it was a lot of money, because when you don't have you have a lot of stress. It can cause like stress and a lack of options. But once I made a decent chunk, my mindset kind of changed. I'm not Bill Gates, but you know, I'm somewhat comfortable. I have quite a few years covered outside of my trading, and I'm not stressed about money anymore. So I think making it is trying to be somewhat a good human, which I'm not. Right? Unfortunately, it's the truth. I'm not really a good human, but
How would you define a good human?
well, I would say if you look at different like there's only one human being in the entire story of mankind that was somewhat like that was good, and it's because he has no hypocrisy. So it would be Jesus, just because the way he lived was according to what he preached. And like if I tell people to be something that I think is my definition of good, that would be hypocrisy, because I'm not really good myself. So I think those kind of teachings where he says like love your neighbor and try to not be resentful and those kind of things is the path to becoming better. And if you apply some of this wisdom, then oddly I notice my life becomes better. So I'd say making it is a certain piece where you don't have the stress related to money at first, and then you figure out that materialism and all those things is really not it. Like I don't really have jealousy towards people who are richer than me, or those kind of things, and I strive to just try to be better every day.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. It's a really good answer, and I do agree. I feel like once you actually reach, achieve having some money, it really changes your perspective on. Oop, we just lost Salsa. He's gone. Let's just rug this. There you go. All right. You're
Yeah,
like, my job here is done.
I mean, let's say you take back on this topic of making it, like let's say you take loving your neighbor, for example. It's very hard to love everyone and to be good to everyone, because I mean I'm born in this environment where I would play video games, and like let's say you play RuneScape, your best friend will scam you for a rune scimitar, so you become very skeptical of people, and you start thinking like them a bit, and you become a bit nasty from the inside. But something that helped me was be more family oriented. So you can start in your own family by just trying to help them out and to be good to them at the very least, and that's a step towards being better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, I really like that. I definitely think that being a good human is, is a big thing you should do in life. But I also feel like it's something that it's much, I wouldn't say easier, but you just have much more energy and time to do it once you actually have some, lack of stress, like lack of financial stress. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's just that when you have financial stress, that's all you think about at times, because you feel
exactly.
you feel like it takes power away from you, it takes options away from you, it gives you stress. If like tomorrow you get sick and you don't have medical insurance, then what do you do? So all those little things pile up in your head if you don't have the money to deal with it. But once you have the money to deal with it, it's not your problem anymore, and you can just move on with your thinking. But really, if you can realize that it's not the answer before you even have it, it would technically be also helpful. it's
Yeah.
just it's just for my case to realize that I had to make some money first, just to take that stress away.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, right? So it makes sense that this is the main thing we're focused on. But then once you have it, you realize it's not the most important thing. And I talked about it in the last episode as well, where a lot of people think that money will make their life happy and like will fix everything. And most of the times when people actually reach that, they understand there's much more to it, and
Yeah,
it's not
that's
so
that's how I define it too. There's much more to it. It helps a lot for sure. It makes things a lot easier, but it's not everything.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I'm gonna go over the question. We have a couple of questions here. We have small news asking, what is Salsa's favorite fruit?
Oh boy, I think that's blueberry.
All right, there we go.
Someone tag Loom
Um,
Dart.
yeah, I remember you had a period
Actually,
last year. You
funny
were eating
story. I
so
say,
much durian.
yeah, I'm saying that because my son loves blueberries, and I also happen to love blueberries. So I figured that since blueberries is his favorite fruit, he probably got that from me. So blueberries is my favorite fruit.
Nice. By the way, I haven't. It's just an interesting thing that came up to my mind. Do you feel like your approach to markets and trading changed a lot after you had a family?
I think in terms of balance, it's better. Just because before I meet my wife, I was just that was my life. Trading was my life, and I had no balance. I was completely obsessed by it. Um, the kind of environment where I would, let's say, sleep 4 hours a night and wake up to trading view alerts and dream of the market, and it was really unhealthy as an obsession. But um, then when you start having a better balance, you realize that you really don't need to sacrifice as much as your sleep to trade. Like the market will still be there tomorrow.
Yeah,
So I think it helped me, if anything.
yeah, yeah. I feel like that when I take away in some periods, I know what you mean, because in some periods I feel like I start putting on um, too many working hours, but the quality of them starts dropping. And
Yeah,
I
and
try.
there's actually some traps with that, and I'm glad you point that out, because one of the mistakes that I notice I do, and again I realized that from writing about my trading, is I felt like the market owes me for the time I put in, and
Yeah,
and that led to me revenge trading based off of that assumption of entitlement. So let's say I spend 10 hours on the computer, and and it doesn't really go my way. I start sizing up and trying to make up for it by betting more, those kind of things. And I'm sure
yeah.
some people.
Oh, can you guys hear me? I don't know if you.
I think I'm
All
back.
right.
My
Yeah,
headset
you're back.
froze.
You're back. No worries. Yeah, you're talking about like how you started realizing the issue from journaling it.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So spending too much time on the computer was counterproductive many times. You
Yeah,
start making mistakes because of the entitlement that you feel the market owes you for your time.
yeah. Start seeing shit. You start forcing trades, sizing up, like you said. It's 100%. It's a bad thing. If I sit on the PC and for an hour and nobody, I have no energy to shitpost or have fun with friends and there's nothing to do, I'll just get up and go to the park or something. That's something I changed in the last couple of years. Like, there's a time and place for it, right? To put the 12 hours a day on the PC and stuff like that. Now is not the time, that's for sure.
Yeah, when you got dependents, you have to think of them first. So that's something that changes your lifestyle a lot.
Yeah, definitely. We have let me see. We have Shrieks asking 99% of day traders lose money. Why should anyone begin trading when the odds are against you?
That's a very good point. You should not.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think so. Like, legit, most people just shouldn't do it unless you really have the time and effort
just
to
buy
put into
ETH,
it.
just buy ETH and BTC. Like you really don't need to trade. I'm not being sarcastic or anything. I like in this conversation, Delta asked me how long it took me to start making money, and my answer right off the bat was that I lost money for 18 months at first. So if you're touching leverage and trying to trade on leverage, you should not. I don't think it's 99%. I don't think it's that bad, but it's definitely like 80+% of traders lose money, maybe up to 95. But most people who trade will lose money, so you should not.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We have Noobver1 asking where to start if you want to be good at reading the order book and tape.
I use Trading Light a lot. I like it. It's pretty good because if you just watch the order book, you don't really see the sitting orders, and it's nice to see how long an order has been there for. Is it spoof or not? You need to develop an intuition for it, and for that you need to watch a lot, maybe study it. Trading Light is good in terms of newsfeed. You can filter through TweetDeck. You make lists of people and accounts that provide news. There's some service provider like 3 of Alpha and all those, like DB Tire 10K on Twitter. So you can get a decent news feed from making lists on X, TweetDeck. So for news and order books, that's what I would recommend. Twitter and Trading Light does the job. Now, if you want software to help with your execution, well, it can make sense if you get the bigger size. I currently use software called CoinRoutes, which executes for me, and I believe that they might release a retail version soon. So those kind of software are helpful if you trade bigger size and you're trying to limit your execution costs. So that can be an option. I think there's
with
many
a limit chase type thing.
No, limit chaser is shit because it runs the market away from it. I think CoinRoutes is a bit better than that. Just a limit chaser is not. I mean, it's not very sophisticated. It was. I tried some before and it was not for me. CoinRoutes is a bit better because it has the ability to also take. So it calculates opportunity costs for me and executes my size. But really, if you're trading a small accounts, you should not bother with those software. You should just focus on finding edge. And if you're trying to trade from the order books, yes, having the order books open is good, and you can visualize with heat maps on Trading Lights and start from there.
Yeah. Well, we have Marusha with us here. Marusha, can you hear her?
Yeah. I was waiting you go over a question. I hope you guys doing well.
Yeah, all good, mate. Good to have you on.
Nice. I wanted to ask you, Salsa. Like recently we got 6 months of range. How you will adapt when we go out of the range? Because like it's been some months you're building some muscle memory of doing the same stuff, but how do you think you're gonna deal with it once we go outside of the range? How are you gonna redefine yourself a bit to a new trend?
Yeah. Well, everything's kind of a trade that depends what you mean by the range. Like, is it 0 to 100K? Is it 55K to 65K? Everybody defines their ranges in a different way. I kind of don't think of everything in terms of a range. I know it's counterintuitive maybe to some of what people think, but I just buy when I think there's a chance it goes, like when the odds seem skewed in.
Oop, I think we lost us again.
Hello? Oh, I
Yeah,
think my headset has issues. It's out of battery and I'll need to charge it later. But yeah, what I was saying is I don't necessarily think of everything in terms of a range. Sometimes there's trends and I just try to catch dips. Sometimes there's downtrends also and I try to sell the rips. I think focusing on your entries is what matters most. Your entry is basically the reason that you put on a trade is your edge, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's a range. It doesn't matter if it's a trend trade. It's just it needs to make sense in terms of expected value. So let's say you think the market goes up $1,000 as often as it goes down $500, and you buy, then that would make sense. So that's how I make sense of the market in terms of expected value. I don't know if that answers your question, Maru.
Yeah, it does. Don't worry. And give me access to CoinWord. I need it.
Yeah, I'm asking them to make it free because it costs so much money. That's the reason why I didn't use before. They gave me a trial. I like it, and I'm telling them that they should just make it free and try to get a lot of volume, because nobody's going to pay like 1 BPS. That's a very high cost. So they will make a free version soon. I managed to convince them, and you can be sure that I will give you a tour, and
I mean,
it will be accessible. I'll probably shill it as soon as they have the free version.
they should just do like, because our terminal, like, should do a broker
Like
deal with
referral
Exactly.
or just deal,
Because
yeah.
they can because they're basically an institutional software, right? So their clientele is, from what I gather, is institutional. But I think they will come up with something more retail oriented, which is perfectly fine for guys like me. You don't need to have the option to trade on Bitstamp, Coinbase, Binance, and Deribit at the same time. Maybe you only trade on Binance. So they will make something for retail, and as soon as it's available, I will ping you. Should be soon.
Nice, that's awesome.
daily.
And also about what you said about your answer that you gave to Marusha, it always comes back to just like a lot of times when I'm trading and I'm trying to trade intraday, which I'm shit at. Very often your line comes into my mind, which is just lucky entries and likely exits.
That comes from Bit Crypto. That was not my line.
Yeah.
He kept telling me this at the prop shop, and it stuck to me because it makes sense, right? If your entry is your edge, you want to get lucky on the entry. The exit, you should not try to get lucky, because if you get a lucky entry, if you're wrong, you might make money, even if you have to close early, right? Because if your entry is lucky, you should not suffer too much from it. You should be pretty precise, and you should aim to catch some kind of wick or to be somewhat close to the bottom or the top, assuming you trade mean reversion. So that's what a lucky entry means. For me, it means where your edge is maximized in terms of both opportunity cost and expected value. So try to get lucky on your entries, and then the trading will get a lot better. I guarantee it.
You
Yeah,
sound
100%.
like him over time. I was thinking that the whole time. I feel like I was listening to him doing, like the usual meeting at the prop.
Yeah.
He repeats it, but I guarantee you, he repeated me this same thing so many freaking times, and I'm a stubborn fuck. Like, I will not apply it. I will still spend like 10, do a bunch of mistake. Like I said earlier, you spend 10 hours on the computer, you feel entitled, and maybe instead of trying to get lucky, you're trying to get an entry. So you don't do that. If you trade, you need to be patient and you need to wait for the lucky entry. If you want to maximize your long-term profitability, this will also help with your quality of life, right? Because a lot of trading, let's face it, it's waiting. So try to get luckier on your entries. If you're struggling, your trading will 100% of the time improve over, let's say, a month or two. You will see the difference.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the qualities you get from being a good trader are very applicable to life. Like you just said, it can literally make you a better person. Like just being the having the consistency, having the discipline, patience, things like that.
Yeah, it can, there can be some parallels, but I wouldn't say that trading made me a better person. But yes, I see what you mean. There's parallels to be made.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Doesn't seem like anyone has any other questions. Let me just double check that. Yeah. Well, Salsa, thank you so much for coming, man. It was really awesome to have you on. I think everyone learned a lot from you. Do you have anything else you want to add before we finish this off?
I think we covered everything. So I'd like to thank you for inviting me. It was a great chat, and have a great day if you're in America, or a great evening if you're in
Yeah.
Asia, or afternoon if you're in Europe.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. Thank you for coming. It is our pleasure. And to anyone listening, if you joined in the middle and you missed a bunch or whatever it is, this will be recorded and this will be uploaded to Spotify, Apple, and YouTube later on. So you will be able to watch that after we do a little bit of post-production stuff. Notes will be available on Monday, as always. And yeah, thank you so much for coming to everyone. And before we finish off, I just want to mention IDEX did launch their full product last week. So if you are interested to test it out while there's still different promotions and stuff like that, go check the IDEX Discord. You will be able to join right into the chain by depositing from any EVM. Just jump straight into trading, up to 20x leverage. Go check it out. I feel like they've done a fantastic job, and it's a really awesome product. So yeah, give that a shot if you want to. You don't have to. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, Salsa, thank you so much for coming. Marusha, thanks for coming by, asking Salsa some questions. And thank to all the guests for coming. And if you don't follow Salsa, make sure to check his profile out. I do recommend to check out his pinned post about the plateau of downfall. It's really awesome. I remember it to this day. And yeah, have a nice weekend, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Salsa. Bye.